All right. What is good, my future millionaires and those who are just tired of being stuck? You've clicked on this video because you're hungry, you're curious, and you're probably a little bit frustrated. And guess what? I get it. I've been there, we all have. This isn't some fluffy, feel-good manifest. Your dreams kind of video. Nope. This is the raw, uncut truth bomb about how you can seriously get ahead of 99% of people in 6 to 12 months or less. Yeah, you heard me right, 6 to 12 months. And before you roll your eyes and think, oh, here we go, another guru promising overnight riches, pump the brakes, because this isn't about working 80-hour weeks or following some complicated system that requires a PhD in finance. This is about working differently, focusing on what actually moves the needle, and just, being a little bit smarter than the average bear. It is not rocket science, folks. It is just common sense that most people conveniently ignore. So let's waste absolutely no time. Let's dive right in. Because your time, my friend, is literally money, the first point, and arguably the most crucial, is what I call psychological arbitrage. Now, before you panic and think I'm about to drop some fancy, unintelligible jargon, relax. I hate that stuff too. Psychological arbitrage, in simple terms, means exploiting other people's mental barriers for your own gain. I know, it sounds a little bit messed up, a little bit dark, but stick with me here. Because this is where the real opportunities hide. Think about it. When markets crash, what do most people do? They freeze, right? They panic, they sell everything at a loss, or they just sit there paralyzed by fear. And what happens then? That is when the savvy investors, the ones who understand psychological arbitrage, swoop in and scoop up assets at rock bottom prices. I've talked about this before, but buying opportunities appear precisely when everyone else is running for the hills. It is counter-intuitive, I know, but that is the point. Another example, a new platform launches, a new social media app, a new technology. What does the vast majority do? They wait. They sit on the sidelines, waiting to see if it is worth their time, if it is going to take off. Meanwhile, who wins? The early adopters, the ones who jump in, experiment, and figure things out while everyone else is still debating. I need to take my own advice here because I'm totally guilty of this with crypto. I've been sitting back, watching it play out, seeing these insane annualized returns over the last couple of years, and I'm like, should I? Shouldn't I? Who knows if that is actually going to keep up? But in theory, the early movers, the risk takers, they're the ones who snag those crazy gains. I'm just saying, in theory, right? To combat this psychological paralysis, I've almost built a daily or weekly practice I call fear setting. Seriously, I literally write down what I'm avoiding and why, and then I force myself to take one tiny, almost ridiculously small action towards that thing, just one. This builds what I like to call decision velocity. It makes you nimble, it makes you able to move quickly when others are hesitating. And for my young guys and girls out there, listen up. You are young. You have the luxury of taking more risks than the average person. You can get ahead of your peers, and I'm all for some healthy competition. Especially as a young man, right? You need to be agile. While other people spend their entire lives stuck in this analysis paralysis BS mode, that is where you can absolutely crush it. And here is the kicker. Some people even have these brilliant, crazy ideas, but then they do absolutely nothing about them. And then what happens? They're left saying, oh, what could have been? Oh, imagine if I actually did that business idea. Oh, that business turned into a multi-six-figure, seven-figure opportunity for someone else. It is like, well, that could have been you, brother or sister, but you didn't take the leap. You didn't take the risk. So I just want you to psychologically and mentally understand these points, because a lot of people don't, which actually leads us perfectly into point number 2, which is very similar. It is another mental one, but it is a game changer. I've talked about this before. I use my negative anger as fuel. Yeah, you heard me, negative anger. And I almost force myself to think backwards. Now, naturally, as humans, we tend to ask ourselves and others, how do you get X to get to Y? How do you get X, Y, and Z by doing this? What happens when I go to the gym? What happens when I invest this money? There are risks in that, right? So what happens is people stay stuck. Again, in this weird middle ground where they do just enough to get by, but not enough to actually get ahead because they know the real work that is needed to get there. So they psych themselves out. Oh, it is really hard. I can't do this. Instead, what you need to do, and this is where the toxic brilliance comes in, is almost ask yourself, what happens if I don't invest this money right now? What happens if I don't go to the gym today to do my cardio, to do my lifts? What happens if I don't upload a video? What happens if I don't do X, Y, and Z in the short amount of time that I have on this earth? And I promise you, your thinking and actions will change immediately, just by thinking this way. I know it is a little bit toxic, and would I do it every single day? Probably not. But it seriously propelled me further in my career when I started in my early 20s, and it has done me very, very well for the rest of my life, and I think it will continue to. Right. So at least having that fire lit is something that I will literally use forever. I highly recommend you do. And this is a small, very quick segue if you wanted to book a call to talk more about this stuff, to talk more about business content. Now is absolutely the time. A week today, the price is raising to $189. I mentioned that in the last video, but I just wanted to get that out again. Give you guys an Easter's coming up soon, so I wanted to, give that just fair warning. Let's get on to the next point, the proximity principle. This is something that I have done, and I still do, funnily enough, to this day. It doesn't matter what level I get to, I'm probably always going to do this. I noticed my personal growth absolutely skyrocketed when I started forcing myself around people who were already exactly where I wanted to be. Here's exactly what I did. I found typically like 25-ish to 30 people at a time who had achieved almost exactly what I wanted, high liquid net worth status, businesses started, families, nice cars, whatever the hell it was, right? And then I reached out with a very simple message, completely cold. I'd say something like, I admire what you've built, especially with specific thing X, Y, and Z. I'm working on my goal and would love to ask you about 3 specific questions over a call. I'd even offer to pay for it sometimes. And some people would, happily accept. So I'd pay them for their time, be respectful. But some people would just decline and say, hey, man, sure, I don't need your money. Let's chat. I'm always happy to chat with a young, ambitious guy. People appreciate that. There is not enough of this going around in my opinion, and this got me a crazy 40 to 50% response rate. Most people trying to network, I ask them, can I pick your brain? Let's meet for a coffee. And it is like, dork, you are going to get shunned, you're going to get sent to spam, you're going to get declined right away, which never works. Be specific, be upfront, be very respectful of their time, and just say, hey, I want to chat with you. You've clearly crushed it. Compliment them a little bit, be genuine, and, that really does work. Just getting around successful people. With the age of the internet, there is absolutely no excuse on not doing this in today's day and age. The next one I want to talk about, call it the 1% further or the 1% skill acquisition method, right? Focus on high leverage skills that create a huge upside of results. Not all skills are equal, my friends. I have found skills that have had, luckily, what I call asymmetric upside, where learning that one thing has opened many doors for other skills to be easily learned. For example, I spent months improving my sales skills, my communication skills, right? Which then boosted my ability to negotiate better, my ability to lead a team better, my ability to just drive crazy sales revenue numbers all at once. Under this one little tiny roof, don't just learn what everyone else is learning. Ask yourself, what skills would actually make everything in my life easier? Boom. That is your 1% skill. If you really want to beef this up, become pretty good at 2 to 3 complementary skills versus being a master of one. I'm just going to give you a basic example, like guitar. Say you're I don't care if you're, the best guitar player in the world. If you can't monetize it, if you can't get attention on it, if you can't, do X, Y, and Z, however, think of this. If you're an above average guitar player, call it even a 6 or a 7 out of 10. But you can combine that, look at this. Someone paused my nuke streak here. I was pissed. But you can combine that with uploading YouTube videos and content and tutoring. You could make a crazy living, you can get attention, you funnel that attention to a tutoring offer, and you're pretty good at playing guitar. Which one would you take? The 10 out of 10 master guitar player who has nothing else going for him, or the person who can combine that? I look at this with fitness influencers. There are guys that are yoked out of their minds, but then they're broke. They have no social media audience, they have no X, Y, and Z. They drive this beater old car. I'm like, brother, what are you doing? Like, the gym is your whole life, and you can't even talk to women, you can't do X, Y, and Z. When I know this guy who has a pretty average physique, but he is witty, he is rich, he is fun, he has got a good family. It is like, be an all-around better person, and everything else in your life will get around. I know that is a controversial one. I'm going to park it there before I get myself in some trouble. The next one, the income stack strategy. Again, instead of just focusing on building your salary, building, a little box for yourself to be conditioned in your 9 to 5, which, again, I'm not against 9 to 5s. I'm just saying if you want to get ahead, which is what this channel is about, which is what this whole damn video is about, you need to have either multiple income streams or go all in on a business. You need to own equity. Okay, so I evaluate, I get pitched stuff all the time. I look at every opportunity using 3 questions. Can I start this with less than 10 hours a week of work? Number 2, can this eventually be automated or delegated? Both is best. Or number 3, does this leverage skills I already have, right? So again, going back to my early days, I started with simple freelancing in my appointment setting and lead gen field, then created my own agency from my expertise. Then I built systems around with my employees to buy my time back and made way more, right? This is ultimate leverage. In 2022, I made just under 320 grand as a freelancer, but I was working 12 hours a day. I was working a crazy amount of time. I had netted after tax saved in my account at the end of that tax year, 120 grand. I had over 6 figures in my account just from that 1 year after everything. I was like, holy crap, that was the first time I saw 6 figures. But then I realized the work that had to get there, right? You need to get yourself out of the weeds. And then the second year I made double, but I literally cut my workload by about 30 to 40%. I worked a lot less because I bought my time back. Now with AI, I mean, I know it is a buzzword, but you could do that left, right, and center, right? This is so possible in this day and age. So focus. You don't need to do what I did, but just focus on, doing a TTS TikTok shop. Focus on just creating content because you create a piece of content once, and it could be viewed for the rest of time. It could be viewed for the millions of times over. That is why I like video creation over streaming in my personal opinion, is because you can get so much more done. You have ultimate leverage. Okay, just think about that. The last point is what a lot of people don't do. Call it the 90-day review system. This is like what I just say. What gets measured gets improved. Every 90 days I sit down, sometimes even monthly, with a simple spreadsheet and just, by hand. What activities actually move me forward this quarter, whether it is financial, personal, emotional growth, whatever. Where am I spending time without getting any results? Because that is another thing, talked about that in the second point. What is one thing I would change that could make everything else easier, right? This just keeps me brutally honest with myself and prevents me from staying busy in that busy, hustle culture without making any progress. Again, I know guys who work 3 hours a day, they make millions, and I know people who work 8 to 10 hours a day and they don't even make 6 figures, right? It is all about leverage. It is all about the vehicle that you're in and using your skills. It is a combination of everything, right? So most people never review these things, and then they just keep making the same mistakes, living the same miserable life over and over and over again. And it is a total waste, and then they, God forbid, and most don't. But some even blame the external world. It is like, dude, you're not even doing the work that is needed. You don't understand what is happening right now. So again, I wanted to keep this short and sweet. This is a crazy, actionable video that you could take. You just rip the whole thing. I'm going to include the timestamps, but please do the work that is needed. Your life will change drastically. Take it from me. And as always, if you made it this far, I want to see you win. Thank you for watching. Stay boring. Stay patient. Peace.